Hey y'all, this is Kaj and I'm going to be sharing some tips for making compelling Stalker content. If you haven't been paying attention, Stalker, Anomaly, and all her respective modpacks of course, have placed a spotlight on the Stalker universe in front of a diverse collection of video game fans. Not only did this create a multitude of new fans of the franchise, but it also ignited an immense hunger for everyone's favorite word, content. For a little more context, I'm constantly consuming Stalker content when I'm not making my own, so I wanted to take a second to help out some of my fellow creators and share a few of my tips and tricks of how I've learned to wrangle this engine made of duct tape, vodka, and Slavic dreams into producing. I'm going to be dividing this video into two sections, recording and editing. Feel free to skip around and I'll do my best to formulate the cacophony in my head into easily digestible nuggets of knowledge. Let's get started. I'm going to open up with a few engine tools that you simply need to know when you're capturing content, because they'll make your life immensely easier. Toggling the HUD. Toggling the HUD is a simple two-step process. Initially, head to your player settings and disable the toggle. Apply the setting, and once you're back in game, hit the H key. You can also cycle through different types of displays by hitting the H key to display more or less information on your screen. I think this is a necessity because it really amps up the immersion if you're going for a cinematic style. Using the free cam. In order to fly around the map and capture more difficult shots, you'll need to press the tilde key, which should pull up the console. From here, type demo_record space 1 and press enter. Once activated, you'll have directional control via the WASD keys, and you'll be able to move forward and backward with the left and right mouse buttons. You can hold control to move faster in any direction. You can also hold shift to move slower. This is what I usually use for slow pans or zooms. It really helps to amp up the drama. Keep in mind, this is not a no-clip mode. You're simply moving the camera. Your character will remain wherever you first entered the command. With that being said, you can use this mode to travel to a location. Simply place your camera where you want your character to be and press enter. If you want to exit the free cam without teleporting your character, press escape. Switching between first and third person. The third person camera isn't something I use too often because of the classic models, but if you're able to find a use for it, more power to you. In order to switch, you'll need to add keybinds to the third-person camera functions. There are two types, one for capturing cinematic character shots, and the other is a traditional over-the-shoulder camera. Aiming is pretty rough in these, so I don't recommend actually playing in third person. Of course, don't forget to bind a key to the first-person mode so you can return to it once you're done messing around. Using the canted sights. This is only slightly relevant, but I see it asked quite often in my comment sections, so I feel like this is a good idea to address it. Canted sights are normally side or top mounted alternate aiming methods that come on some higher tier weapons. You can use them by pressing V. Not all weapons have them, but you can still turn the weapon to the side for better visibility in close quarter situations. Of course, there are certain weapons where even that is not an option, so don't be surprised where you can't tilt your bolty and bless a zombie at 3 feet out. Using the debug menu. If you're looking to set up a specific situation for capture, the debug menu could be your best friend. You can enable it via setting in the Anomaly launcher, then by pressing F7 once you're in game. There's a plethora of useful features, from regular cheat tools to weather editors to item and enemy spawners, so use it however best fits you. I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive here since you'll understand it much quicker by just looking through it yourself. For this section, I'm going to be rather brief and only highlight tips I think are important at a high level. Editing is an art in itself, and you can find much more in-depth breakdowns from actual industry professionals on YouTube, so my Forrest Gump methods may not be the best to take to heart. Also, please keep in mind that I'm learning as I go, so some of the things I mention here I may have ignored in previous videos I've posted. And it's not that I'm hypocritical, it's just that I didn't realize it at the time. Cutting with a purpose. This is more of a representation of my own editing style, but I think you can apply some of these principles to make your own content more compelling. Anomaly is a sandbox game, so a vast majority of its interesting moments are player-made. The The downside to this is that you encounter a whole lot of downtime in between moments of action. With that being said, these moments create an atmosphere that you just simply can't find anywhere else. To alleviate walking montages, I try my best to have a maximum clip length of 3 seconds. There are some exceptions to this, of course, but I try to use 3 seconds as a general rule of thumb. Also, I try not to show redundancy in consecutive cuts. Basically, what this means is that I don't cut from one clip of me walking to a clip of me walking the same exact way. You can maintain viewer attention by having something new and interesting enter the frame, or be walking in a different location. Proper sound mixing. If you're capturing gameplay on a mod pack such as Gamma or EFP, you'll probably need to do some sound equalization as you're editing. This is just a byproduct of using something that's a collection of work by different creators. You'll naturally have variations in quality or execution. Where this is most noticeable is gun sounds. Sometimes it'll be mixed well, other times it's going to blow your eardrums out. As a favor to everyone watching, it's probably a good idea to adjust these down to a consistent level so people don't need to constantly be adjusting their volume as they watch. Most editing software have their own loudness normalization tools, but I recommend doing it manually so you can make sure you have control over your atmosphere. If you're uploading to YouTube, the audio will most likely normalize to a range of -12 to -20 decibels, so it's probably best to keep your audio in that range. Color correction. This is where it kind of turns into a dumpster fire. Everyone having different preferences, mod packs using different shader packs, anomalies, in-game graphic settings allowing for saturation adjustment, and not to mention reshading presets, there's really no right answer for how to handle color correction. Just make sure it matches the mood of your video. I will mention that the most popular mod pack, Gamma, is pretty desaturated by default. I prefer my zone to be a bit more colorful, so if you're like me, you'll definitely need to fiddle with it. I will always recommend doing color correction in every video you make, simply to add consistency to the final project. I hope these brief tips were at least a little bit helpful. As always, please feel free to leave any feedback regarding anything I mentioned in the video in the comments below. If you have a better way of doing something that I mentioned, or if I was just straight up wrong about something, please correct me and let me know. I think the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe has incredible untapped potential for storytelling, and with the sequel looming over the horizon and the incredible growth of the mod scene, I'm excited to see what the future holds for the zone. Thanks for watching.